Welcome back, Lane. I think you've been really learning a lot about the basic operations needed to build an iPhone application. And I'd like to take a slightly different direction now and teach you some about how to troubleshoot and debug if you start facing problems in your app. And perhaps these bugs were introduced by another developer in your project, or or you inadvertently introduced these bugs. And there's some tools you can use to do this type of troubleshooting. Let's get started. What I've done is I've created this troubleshooting app, and it's based on that Quick Connections app where Lane is learning iPhone programming that we were looking at in a couple other videos ago. What we'll do is we'll just run this application in the simulator, and you'll see that it's a troubled application. It doesn't work properly. There you go. All right, that should look familiar. Now, if we put in your name here, Lane, press learn, it doesn't respond properly. So, what's going on? How do we fix that? And this is a very common problem in iPhone applications. The linkages between buttons and the code, user interface elements in the code. Let me get prepared here. All right, can you see the screen, Lane? Okay, perfect. Okay, so it's not working. How do we start to, diagnose this? Figure out how to solve this. So what we do is we go to that nib file, and then we'll start first with the button. And we look at this button, and we open up the connections inspector. And let's have a careful look at this. So this button appears to be connected to the file's owner. That should be fine. So let's see if that's the case. So this is the well, okay, it's connected to what? It's connected to learn, the learn method. So the learn method is, declared here, learn, and then the implementation for learn method, we'll just use the jump bar, is right there, line 29 on the implementation file. So let's just do a simple nslog and print out something when the user presses a button and it activates this method. I'm in the learn method. All right, then we run that. We press the button. Nothing happens. We don't get our console message. So we should have gotten an nslog statement right here, and we're not. Something is happening right there. So let's go back into the nib file. Clear up some space. We click on the button, and what we find is when we look into the connections inspector, if we take a very careful look, we'll see this button is connected to the learn method, but look at that. It's touch drag outside, not touch up inside. The touch up inside is what we want for our button. So let's break that connection. And then we'll go ahead and choose the touch up inside and pull that to the file's owner. And we want to connect it to the learn method. So let's see if that fixed the application. We'll run the simulator. You can hear me just fine, right, Lane? All right, cool. So we'll put in Lane, learn. Okay, it didn't give us what we wanted in the end goal, but it did give us the NS log. So it did activate the learn method at this point, which is fantastic. Let's see what else is going on inside that method. So we'll just use the jump bar, and it printed out the NS log. That's great. Now we want it to do this update text, or I mean update label, and then we want it to resign the first responder. So let's see. It is resigning the first responder. So it's dropping that keyboard, dismissing the keyboard, but it's not updating label. What's going on in there? Let's figure out what's happening in this implementation of the method update label. So we'll again use the jump bar. And it's not like it's giving us a compile error where it's not refusing to, even build, but it's just simply not behaving as we wish in terms of updating the user interface elements and responding appropriately. So it really requires this type of troubleshooting to figure that out. And when we look into the update label, we'll see that we're pulling out the student name. So if we want to be super careful, we could nslog this. And we can just say, so the student %@, and then we'll go ahead and print out that value. And then again, we could print out nslog the message. Now we could also use the debugger, and I'll be talking about that later, but nslog is useful sometimes. And then finally, we want to send that message and update the outlet with that text. And it's not achieving that. So something's happening in there. So let's run this and see what we're getting. All right, we got Lane learn. Okay. So what is this? It's showing I'm in the learn method. Okay, we saw that earlier. Student Lane, message Lane. Oh, we actually wanted to be printing out the message, not the student name. Let's do that. All right, we fixed that. Try again. Lane. Okay, this is looking better. I'm in the learn method, Lane, student Lane, message Lane learns iPhone programming from Greg. So it's getting the message. So the message is being modified and loaded up properly, but it's this that's failing. Why? Let's take a look at the header file for this element. Close that area. Now, if we look at this header file for the view controller, we see something that tells us that there's a problem. And that's in the gutter here. You see, there's, for that text field, which is pulling out properly, as you can see in that NS log, that's connected to the view controller. That text field is connected to the view controller through our connection. But look, this is empty. There's no connection. The code is not connected to the nib file, the user interface file. And that element, for that particular outlet, that's a problem. Because if it's not connected, then it cannot perform this operation. So let's connect that. You remember how to do that? We go to the nib, and then let's go ahead and open up the panel there. We'll close off the navigation. Now we'll just use this. Well, let's inspect it. Let's take a look and inspect it. So we'll just have the editor, just one editor window. Okay, let's take a look at the label. Okay, we're highlighting the label now. We've selected the label, and you see if we look at the the connections inspector, there's no connection. So how do we connect that like that? Well, let's do that using the assistant editor. So we can hold down, let's see if this is going to work. Ooh, see, it's making us, it's asking us to create a new outlet here. That's actually not what we want. We want to connect this user interface element, this label, to the code, to an existing outlet. So let's try to take that little dot, empty dot, and connect it to the file's owner. That doesn't seem to be working. But let's connect it to the specific element, that label. Now that seems to have worked. You see, when we click on the left click on this dot, what we see is the view controller is connected to the label. That's looking better. And then it's similar to this, where the view controller is connected to that text field. Let's run it and see if it improved things. There, got it. That solved the problem. And then your sister Jelly. There, got it. This app is now working.